This is a wild and crazy story that actually happened in Africa around 1986, where a whole entire village of people, thousands of people, just dropped dead all of a sudden. And the scary thing about it is that thing, what it was that caused them to drop dead, it's still there and still could happen. Let's check it out. In 1986, in a little village in Nios, Africa, there was this man, Ephraim Chew, and he, you know, kind of just came to while he was unconscious in his little hut. And as he got up, he couldn't really talk, he couldn't really walk and do a lot because he was just like a zombified, you might say. And he looked around and finally got out and started walking down the village when he noticed that there was actually other people laying down. And we looked at him and said, well, they're not sleeping, they're getting up. No, they were actually dead. They were actually dead. And he says, I can't believe this, because all around him was nothing but dead bodies. And as he walked down, and he lived in upper Nios, so I go down and check and see how lower Nios is. Nios is, a place that is totally void of any type of electronics or communications type of thing. It's just a rural village of Africa. So he managed to walk down to the lower place, where he saw this lady coming and screaming and going crazy. He thought, oh my God, what is this? And when he tried to go up to her, she was just like, ripping her clothes off and just kind of going crazy. And then there was these bodies around him. So that was, she grabbed him and started shaking because that was her family. She was just going, crazy. And, he tried to look for other people. And then he saw these dead animals. I can't see. There's like thousands of dead animals left and right all around him. He just kept on walking. And as he walked, uh, this two people came up toward him, and they were kind of, he thought, well, surely they'll stop and we can talk about it. And they didn't talk about it. They just like zombies, they just run right in front of him and just didn't stop, didn't talk, and just ran in the woods. He thought, oh God, I don't know what the heck's going on here. So he continued on down in the village, and then, as his mind cleared up a little bit, he actually thought of this ghost story that his father told him a long time ago about this lake. They lived by a lake called Lake Nyos. That one time the leader there years ago, they said they were going to cross the lake through the water, and this leader, he parted the water, and they all were walking across through the lake bottom, and then a mosquito or something came up on his shoulder, and when he smacked it, he lost control, and all the water came in and drowned all these people. And supposedly all these ghosts are hanging around, and he's thinking maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. This is awful weird. So he eventually saw, was knocking on people's doors, and he just everywhere he went, there's just dead people. They're just laying there dead. In one place, he said the guy wasn't dead. His name was Joseph McQueen, but he was in a lot worse shape than actually he was. But and he couldn't really talk. This thing, they kind of looked at each other, and they couldn't really talk for some reason. They couldn't rationalize or do a lot of things that you normally do. Almost like, again, they're zombified or something like that. And Joe, um, decided that, hey, that he would try to at least get on his motorcycle and, and try to go to another village, because there's nobody dead. I mean, is the whole world dead? They didn't really know. And he managed to get to another village, and there was a lot of people, and that's then where he started, saying what happened, and they finally found out that these people died. However, they didn't really know what it was. So the military came there and just started, burying people. They're like, oh my God, there's like 1,700 people dead and 35,000 livestock. What the heck could do this? And not be seen, you can't see it, it's not here. And everybody said, oh, it had to be a military exercise. That's the only thing do that. I mean, there wasn't any signs of any gas or any type of military um, biological stuff or gas or anything like that. But it was just so weird. So this went on the news, and the news said, hey, this is the craziest thing we ever saw. And this is like in 1986. And they said, hey, all these people just dropped dead, and we still don't know what it is. And while the TV was going on, there was a American scientist who saw this named Joe Devine, and he kind of thought, okay, I think I know what this is because I've seen it before. So then he got with the team and he went over there to look at it and started saying, yeah, this looks some familiar because, maybe 2 years ago in a similar area, near Lake Manoon, Africa area, they had something like this happen, where at least one these there was only 37 people killed, and they kind of just covered up saying we don't know really what it was, but he had an idea what it was, and um, so he went out and he says, let's go test the waters of the lake. And went out and they were taking some bottles, and then when they took the bottles, they could see bubbles going up in the bottles, and they thought, yeah, that's probably what we assumed it was before, but nobody really believed him or nobody really took it seriously. So what had actually happened, that his theory was, and it was the first time he called it unknown, unnatural hazards around this lake. He says couldn't explain everything, but he says it could happen again, and nobody just took that seriously. This time he says, I think I know what this may actually be. We have a better theory. And when they got that sample, it kind of concluded that theory. Said, okay, it's CO2 gas. Believe it or not, and that's a gas that's odorless and you can't see it and it can kill you. But imagine that being a whole entire area of a village or your city coming through and just wiping everybody out real quick. That's basically what happened here. So how did it get there? Well, all these people had actually claimed that they heard a boom that day, like a lightning. That's what they assumed it was or something. But they all heard this boom, and that's all the evidence they had and what had happened that day. And then so Joe said, hey, these lakes are on a volcanic uh, prehistoric volcano, and down in these lakes, either that if there's CO2 just piled up on the bottom, and if that any of these things would burp a little bit, that could come out that way, or better yet, they had steep cliffs, and if there's any type of rock slides, which they think may have been the noise that crashes in there, that would go through and release all the CO2 at one time. So all that CO2 gas came out. It was killing it. That's what the silent killer was. But there's he thought, and that's kind of the conclusions, and a lot of things have been done since that. But there's another lake, which I mean it's like 2,000 times bigger next to this, because they're all kind of on the same volcanic area, and it's 2,000 times bigger. I mean, if that one ever burped, it could kill millions of people. That's kind of around, the Africa area, close to these villages. So, but today, that's a tragic, wild story that we know it could happen again. But they have tried to go into Lake Nyos and the smaller lakes and actually put some tubes down in there. Put some tubes to try to release that gas naturally so they can keep it coming out to where it doesn't build up. So there has been some things to try to resolve these issues in the smaller lakes. However, the Lake Kivu, which is 2,000 times bigger, it's going to be hard to do that when you won't be able to burp all out of that with pipes, but it's still there. It still could happen in any of these places, actually, which is very scary if you were living there. But these people live there. That's their home.